Today we're visiting alehouses in the home counties of England to tell a tale of treachery and treason.
A complicated royal family feud that you and I would know as the Wars of the Roses.
Battle after bloody battle was fought all over England, and it all began in the centre of St Albans. It turns out that here in St Albans, Englishman fought Englishman, cousin fought cousin, in an attempt to control the king, Kingy.
I saw what you did there, dude. It was good, that. It's 1455, and it's the first battle in the Wars of the Roses. Only thing is, though, what's it got to do with roses?
Well, to get to the root of that thorny problem, we're going to have to find a good pub to travel back in time. Come on, Petal.
We're spinning the clock back over 500 years to the medieval England of 1455. Henry VI was the country's king, but he was losing his grip on power.
Noblemen from two great houses, the Yorkists and Lancastrians, were locked in a power struggle over who should become his successor.
With tensions running high, it was all about to kick off, right here where this ancient pub stands, in the bustling market town of St Albans.
Here we are then, the Boot.
Well, mate, it certainly looks old. Definitely older than the phone box, that's for sure.
It's believed that in this part of the marketplace, it was used by tanners in the 1400s, hence the name the Boot.
Ah, well, I never. You see, we have history all around us, mate, all around us in these very walls.
This cracking pub is one of the town's oldest buildings. We know it's been an alehouse since the 1700s, but it's reckoned parts of the building date back as far as the 1400s.
Wow, now that's pretty ancient, dude.
You weren't lying, Kingy. The history is in the walls.
It's also in the ceilings, mate. They must have been pretty short in them days, wasn't it? Well, and we also know that the Boot is slap bang on the site of the first battle of the Wars of the Roses, which is why it's officially a battlefields pub.
And we're meeting Mike Elliott from the Battlefields Trust to find out more.
Hello.
How do, Mike? Dave. Nice to meet you.
Pleased to meet you.
Mike, I'm sorry.
Nice to meet you. Welcome to St Albans.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. It was the War of the Roses.
Wars of the Roses.
What were they fighting about?
OK, lots of people get very confused about this. They think that because it was York and Lancaster, all the fighting was up in the north.
Yeah.
Totally wrong. It was actually a dynastic war. There were two rival great houses, the House of York and the House of Lancaster. These two great houses were both said they had a claim to the throne. So over a period of 28 years, they fought a number of campaigns to try and decide who would be king.
So, in one corner, Henry VI and the House of Lancaster. In the other, Richard, the Duke of York, and you've guessed it, the House of York.
Richard believed that he was in line for the throne, but he'd fallen out with the king. The sides were squaring up for a fight. So Richard, the Duke of York, heard the king was out to get rid of him. So did Richard come here to confront the king, to kill the king?
Well, he wasn't really out to get rid of him. It was more a case of the rival houses wanted to establish who was next in line of succession. The Duke of York wanted to make sure that the king knew that it was actually him who was going to be the next king. So the king left London in May 1455 to travel to Leicester. And St Albans, of course, is on the way. So the Lancastrian army arrives here in St Albans early in the morning of the 22nd of May. And then they hear that the Yorkist army, which outnumbers them by about 50%, is just outside. There then proceeds a lengthy period of negotiation, and eventually Henry VI says, right, I've had enough, and raises the royal standard.
So that was game on then?
Mm-hmm. And at that point, the Duke of York says, well, I've had enough of this, and he decides to attack. And so the bell, which is in the clock tower just outside, which was there at the time of the battle, is told, and that's the signal for all the Lancastrians who've probably been all the taverns and drinking places around, having breakfast, suddenly realising, oh golly, we've got to defend ourselves.
And that's why they were late for the battle.
Yeah, in a way.
Having breakfast.
Having breakfast.
In a
and
pub.
Drinking ale.
I think that's brilliant. I mean, at least it's human.
Absolutely. So if I was standing here looking out the window on the morning of the 22nd of May, 1455, I'd have seen the battle.
What you would have seen here outside would have been lots of Lancastrian men-at-arms frantically putting on their armour and getting ready to fight.
Gosh.
Because it takes about 20 minutes to put on a full suit of armour. The fighting only lasted half an hour, so in many cases, by the time they got their armour on, troops had broken through into the town centre and they were surrounded.
Why was it called the Wars of the Roses?
Well, it wasn't actually called the Wars of the Roses at the time. It was not until Shakespeare wrote a famous scene in the Temple Garden in Henry VI, Part 1, where the rival houses are confronting each other in the Temple Garden, and the Lancastrians select a red rose and the Yorkists select a white rose. Of course, it's all complete fiction. But then, in the 19th century, historians start referring in history books to the Wars of the Roses, basically because of the scene in Shakespeare.
Right.
Well, I never. A work of fiction, eh?
Aye, but the war that Shakespeare christened certainly wasn't. On and off and on. For 30 years they fought. It was tough going for the soldiers.
One bonus, though. They got to enjoy a pint or two.
Indeed, Kevin Yellen's a regular of the boot and dabbles in historic homebrew. Just the man to show us what was being drunk in the taverns of the time before getting the boot back onto the battlefield.
Oh, funny, ha-ha.
So is this ye olde ale?
It is, yes. This is a recreation of what I believe a medieval ale around May 1455 would look like. Shall we have a little sample?
Oh, definitely, Kevin.
Talking of samples, it does look like one.
Obviously unfiltered. Fine.
Said he raising his eyebrows as a brewer. Go on, mate, we'd love to see.
So we've got two brews here. So what we have is we would have mashed the grain, and then we have our first running, which would have been very high in sugar, so that would produce a higher alcoholic beverage. And then with the same grain, we'd add more water to it, do a second mash, and that would produce a much weaker ale. And typically what we expect is the weaker ale would be one which would be drunk by the family, and then the stronger one would have more preservative quality because of the high alcohol content. Nice. And that would then be able to be kept for a little while longer, maybe kept for special occasions, and certainly would be offered to passers-by to purchase, especially in a town like St Albans with obviously coaching routes and the masses of pilgrims.
St Albans was the first stagecoach post north of London, and its cathedral a sacred site for pilgrimage.
The town's coaching inn stabled over 2,000 visiting horses at any one time, which meant lots of owners and lots of ale. Or a hoof.
Very interesting that you said that ale would be drunk by all the family, so why weren't they drinking water at the time?
The Abbey has countless mills around 1455. Obviously, that's going to turn the water up, it's going to make it very turbid, not very appetising to drink. Brewing is probably second only to agriculture as an occupation of people in St Albans at that time.
St Albans in the 1400s sounds like our kind of place, Kingy. Home brew available all over the shop.
And I think a little sample is in order. First up, the family brew.
So what do you reckon, Kingy?
It's not what I would choose to drink. It's just a different palate, isn't it now?
It's very light.
We're expecting something that it's not delivering, in a way.
Absolutely. There's very little sort of complexity. There's a little bit of a herbal taste to it.
I can see how you would feed this to your kids. There's nutrition in it.
Absolutely. It's not just a way of hydrating the family. It's a valuable food source.
Yes,
all the vitamins which are in it.
So this is the better one.
This is the better one. This is the one which is higher in alcohol. So the first one ran about 2.6% in alcohol.
Oh, that will be why.
We're approaching the 8% on this particular beverage.
Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Very good health.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, that tastes better.
Fruity.
Oh, aye. We're on to a stout, aren't we now, almost? How many pints a day do you reckon the average middle-aged soldiers. How many pints a day do you reckon that the average soldier in the middle of age... This is very good.
It's about...
How many pints of this stuff a day will the average soldier in the Middle Ages have got through?
Not many if it had the same effect as it has on you. But anything approaching a gallon, I would have thought, might well be a daily intake for them.
Isn't it wonderful to think we're here drinking beer as it would have been drank then?
It is.
In a pub on the edge of the battlefield.
Absolutely.
Except the good thing is you don't have to fight.
That's good, yeah.
Fascinating stuff, Mucker. Tell you what, though, that ancient home brew's a bit rough.
Did you know, on the subject of drinking establishments, in the Middle Ages, taverns were like modern-day wine bars, providing for posh people like me?
Oh, well, alehouses were more like pubs, which provided a drinking establishment for the more common folk, like you.
Inns were like hotels, providing food and bed, stabling and entertainment.
Ah, which would be perfect for somebody like a king to stay in, which would, of course, be me.
And that's not the only bit of ye olde tavern trivia up our sleeves. Pub signs are full of fascinating facts too.
And in St Albans, there's a few corkers.
The Six Bells is named after the number of bells in nearby St Michael's Church. A ringing endorsement if ever there was one.
Oh, I like what you did there, Myers. The camp sits near the site where Romans set up camp over 2,000 years ago.
And I can think of worse places than a pub to pitch me tent. And the Verulam Arms is a 19th century boozer displaying the crest of the Earl of Verulam. The Latin motto translates as, mediocrity is safe.
Oh, that doesn't refer to the beer.
But back to the St Albans of 1455, we're taking to the streets Wars of the Roses style to find out more about what happened when the battle kicked off. It's time to prepare for battle. What's your favourite colour, Si? Is it the King's Lancastrian red or York's Rebel White?
Oh, Rebel White, mate. Definitely Rebel White.
Good, because my patch is Barrowing Furness, and we used to be Lancashire. So, let's bring it on. If I've got any chance of winning, I need the battle plan. The Yorkist army was stationed outside the town walls, while the king and his Lancastrian troops were hanging out in the streets and taverns, unprepared for battle. I'm back outside the boot to meet local historian Rob. Hello, Rob, I'm Dave.
Hi there.
Rob, we're here at the clock tower. So what part did that play in the battle? Was it there to kind of ring seconds out or announce the kick-off?
The Lancastrian scouts climb up the tower to get a really good view of the lay of the land. And they find the Yorkist positions are within a crossbow bolt of the tower.
Right.
So they're really nearby.
And this tower, it was here at the time of the
It's
battle?
exactly as it was at the time of the battle, yeah. It's an amazing survivor, a piece of medieval bling that was built by the townsfolk.
So, Rob, could you show me around the tower?
Yeah, let's do it.
Fantastic, thank you. It's very cramped in here.
It is, yeah. We've got a narrow stairway to climb.
Lead on, Macduff. Here, I wouldn't fancy this in a full set of armour. I wonder if I'll spot Si from up here. Ah, so the sentries will be up here and just reporting really on the state of the battlefield.
That's right.
But how many troops did the Yorkists have?
Well, they had about 2,500. The Lancastrians had about 2,000.
So the Yorkists really had the upper hand. The Yorkists demanded the king surrender one of his closest allies, the Duke of Somerset, who was lining himself up as successor to the throne. But when the king refused, the Yorkists stormed this very square. And an alehouse may very well have been involved.
And they talk about coming across a pub called the Checker, and we think this is where they broke through the lines.
Right.
And they talk about breaking down walls and houses to get through to the market square.
Can you imagine how terrifying it would have been having a pint in the Chequers?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love it where pubs really signify milestones in British history. It's remarkable. Once the Yorkists had stormed the town, it was only a matter of time before they captured the king himself. And that happened in the town square below.
And they burst through into the market square and they find the king and his royal retinue totally unprepared.
Here?
Absolutely, on this spot. And eventually the king himself is wounded.
And I wonder how many people here doing the shopping give it a second thought that all this momentous fighting happened here in the middle of St Albans.
It wasn't your regular battlefield scene with knights on horseback, you know. It was 15th century street fighting. The common soldiers didn't have full suits of armour like the noblemen. Oh no, they had to make do with pretty much naff all. But they did have weapons.
Ian, Max, great to meet you. How are you, sir?
Not too bad at all,
Good
thanks.
to meet you, thanks. This is remarkable. This is remarkable. So, what do we have here?
Well, in keeping with the location, St Albans, 1455, what we've got here is Max wearing the equipment and clothing that a soldier in the armies of 1455 in the battle would have been wearing.
So, they would have come out of the pub and they would have got all the clobber on
Right.
and then legged it towards the battle.
And it becomes a dirty, nasty street fight.
When we say dirty, we mean really up close and personal. don't
Really
we?
up close and personal.
Right.
Do you want to see?
Yeah, go on, go on. Yeah, because, you know, I'm a Geordie. I'm used to this sort of thing.
Hang on a minute, lads. I need to get into character.
Although we haven't got a helmet for you to wear, right? Let's give you a nice hat.
You're joking, he wouldn't go into battle with this, would he?
Why not? Why not? He would have been
Really?
fully encased in armour, but there's no reason why he couldn't wear it. And also, you know, you look beautiful. So let's remember that everything is a fashion statement in the 15th century.
Is it?
Absolutely. Your armour, the clothes you wear, the weapons you fight with, it's 100% a fashion statement. You are not a noble unless you have a true noble's weapon, and if you're fighting men and you want to use a sword, then the only weapon for you is the longsword.
Flippin' heck.
The longsword, a beautiful weapon.
Yes.
As you can see, it's got a name for a reason.
Yes, it's long and it's a sword.
Absolutely, it's that simple. Let's
Yeah.
say my Lord York moves forward, I cut in like so. There we go. Then at this point, suddenly you've got a strong line, at which point you can bring your hands up in front of you, moving forward, move that weapon slightly to one side, and you can just thrust straight through and walk over me as I fall down. Game over. You only need to go that distance into me for me to fall over.
Flippin' heck. I mean, the level of brutality is just...
Vicious.
It's vicious, man. The levels of skill that's required to survive is mind-blowing. Right, Marius, I've had some training now. It's going to get up close and personal and nasty.
Keep your hat on, Kingy. It's not 1455 now, you know.
Ah, you're just jealous because my side won.
All right, I'll give you that. Richard of York did thrash the king.
Oh, dear me. Well, that was different. I thought like medieval battles happened on fields, you know, with knights on horseback and stuff and armour.
Right, it's strange to imagine knights in armour running up and down the high street with broadswords and axes.
It is. Tell you what, they're brutal, those broadswords, you know, mate. I've lost a finger, look at that.
Give over.
The king lost 3 prominent nobles and round 1. But that certainly wasn't the end of it.
You're not kidding, Kingy. England was in turmoil as sporadic battles took place across the country for decades.
And at many of these ancient battlefields, there still stands a great British pub.